that, if you go to a landfill, there are piles of, solid consumer waste that is just being thrown away, and it contains valuable, often non-renewable resources just sitting in dumps. Steel, aluminum, all kinds of metals.
Maybe they've got a futon, they don't want to carry it home, or they want to let go of it or whatever and give it to someone else, or a book, or a stereo, or a TV, or a fridge, or whatever. Now, great if they take it home and then reuse it for next year, but the reality is that many of our students travel such distance, if they're on an airplane, they can't take the fridge home. It's a perfect cap and gown city and campus joining of sharing the knowledge that we have, sharing how we influence each other, how we're dependent on each other, and really bringing city leaders and campus leaders together, because we're creating all this stuff, we're taking care of our students both on campus and off, and it's time that we take responsibility for all the stuff that we produce.
All of the proceeds benefit Monroe County, United Way, Habitat for Humanity of Monroe County and RESOAR, the IU Office of Sustainability, and the Sustainability Office of the City of Bloomington.
I was trying to think of how do we make it a bigger effort? How do we make this more of a community-wide effort to divert all of this stuff from the landfill instead of just throwing it out on the curb? When you really look at the scope of the problem, the scope of how many people are throwing perfectly good stuff out at this time of year, we kind of intercept the parents and the families and the students who are just moving back or just moving into a new apartment and trying to get stuff. So it's going to be gradual, but I hope it has an impact.
One pressing environmental constraint that makes all this reduction, reuse, and reform necessary is the theory of peak oil, which states that once we pass peak petroleum production, oil becomes subsequently more difficult and eventually altogether impossible to access. The City of Bloomington has officially recognized peak oil and plans all future projects with the issue in mind.
The way to adapt to peak oil, one strategy, is to shift from private to public transportation. So we really need to concentrate on our bus system here, and we're doing that. Fortunately, our ridership has been going up year by year, pretty dramatically, and we're expanding with the new facility.
It's our hope as we go into the future that transit service is going to expand exponentially in the community, with gas prices being what they are and almost certainly going to rise, and whether they'll even be liquid fuels in the next 20 years, who knows? Will we be changing to some alternative form of energy for our mobility? But we really believe public transportation is going to play a key role in everyone's mobility. 6 out of 38 of our vehicles are hybrid vehicles, and I expect that number will continue to grow, assuming there's funding for them.
We can expect that fuel costs are going to be very high in the future, and there are likely to be shortages. And so better to have that infrastructure ready when people need it than when the crisis occurs. The base price of oil has gone up threefold, but there's only been a 10% addition in terms of production in that 10 years. So something is happening, and we've been essentially at a plateau of production for the last 6 years. So despite fierce demand, we don't seem to be getting more of this stuff.
Fuel is a major component of the Bloomington Transit budget. The neat thing about hybrid buses, we're experiencing about a 33% improved fuel efficiency compared to a standard diesel bus. So it helps us be more efficient with our energy resources. It helps us to save money, and it's also good for the environment.
Another way of addressing transportation is so-called alternative transportation, walking, biking, so forth. So we have a plan developed by a biking task force to bring us up to the highest level of biking community by 2016.
Bloomington is the leading city in the state for bicycle friendliness, and they're aiming for a platinum level bicycle friendly status. Our campus is one of the first 20 bicycle friendly universities, but we have a long way to go, and we can follow the lead of the city in that regard. The bicycle friendly university is not just a plaque or a certificate. It's a whole process where you have to go through and you do a 96 question survey. We had to do some research. We had to gather information that hadn't been gathered before. I think that's the beauty of these certification systems, is that it gives you that benchmark, it gives you that gap analysis, and it gives you something to shoot for. We have city cooperation for things like bicycle transportation and bus transportation systems that, are getting people to and from campus would not exist without the city maintaining the streets and all the main thoroughfares that crisscross campus and go around campus or city. That's another connection that we have to maintain and develop and make stronger.